intent in this video is to talk about the masculine and the feminine, and my understanding of what the rise of the feminine is about at this time, and my definitions of how I understand what masculine archetype and feminine archetype is, because I don't hear very many people talking about it from a purely energetic configuration of consciousness, which is what we really are. And these archetypes are things that everyone holds, and they're sets of configurations which are arrangements of your own frequency fields of consciousness. If you think about the forces that hold the torus field of circulation of your consciousness, reception of energy, reception of information, and expansive and projection, proception and projection of information, and how that is actually held together. What is it that makes that torus of your own center of consciousness spin? That's what I really want to talk about. The central axis of the torus is what we would call the masculine principle. It's the anchor for the presence of staying here and present and willing to receive the information that is surrounding us. And then, around us is a massive field of highly textured, infinitely textured, infinitely variable information fields that have many, many different kinds of harmonic resonances that are moving through it, and ways that it self-organizes through these resonances that are self-similar or harmonic in certain ways. Those similarities are putting out frequencies that will ring because of their, it's really mathematical in a sense. It's like, we don't have to know what the numbers are, but there are a lot of numbers out there that are really very amazing to look at because they resonate. In other words, they have harmonics in so many different ways. Certain numbers don't ring so well, and other numbers ring really vastly. For instance, the number 1 rings with absolutely everything. Everything, every number can ring with the number 1, which is a great metaphor for the oneness, the unity, the oneness. So the central axis, it's the center that is open to the reception and is maintaining presence for the reception and is interested in the reception. And then what is being received you could call the feminine. It's actually what is being received is also other centers of presence at every level of scale, throughout every torus field of organization, all the way down, through the atomic, through the subatomic cells, beings that are more embodied matter, and then the more etheric. Anywhere where there's a center of consciousness that is holding a reception field, a torus reception field of perception, is a place where consciousness can be seated seated, S-E-A-T-E-D, and also S-E-E-D-E-D. Okay. The rise of the feminine is about reestablishing relationship. It's all about relationship. How willing are we? This is why it's such a shift in consciousness to actually allow ourselves to come back into relationship. It's a big deal. It means allowing yourself to be sensitive again to receiving another that is different than you are. You're receiving from the unknown, and you're also receiving harmonics of known, which is harmonics that you've already incorporated through yourself. So there's, if you look at the scepter cycle that I did, there's the scepter that is your own sovereign royal axis of reception, perception, proception, conception, perception, inception, all of that. Those all happen in the scepter cycle, in the torus movement of your own consciousness. Your consciousness in embodiment is a limitation of, it's a contraction from the whole in order to explore through certain sets of harmonics without getting overwhelmed with too many frequencies. And this is a real gift. This is the contract that we signed up for to come in and have a body, is to actually take a smaller set of frequencies, a subset of frequencies from the whole, and see how we can navigate and expand from here and see what develops with these particular sets of frequencies. It's like if you were a geometric figure, if your consciousness was a geometric figure, how would it relate to others beyond itself, and how could it expand and grow with others beyond itself, and actually let yourself become more beautiful. It's all about being in relationship. Because we took on this contract of embodying through a subset of harmonic frequencies. Hopefully they're harmonic. Sometimes they're more or less harmonic, depending on what you contracted for. Because we took on this subset, there's a lot that isn't incorporated here. There's a lot of unknown. There's mostly unknown in relationship to what we took on here as embodied souls. It's our delight in embodiment to see how we relate to information that we don't yet understand. It's our relationship with the unknown. And oh my goodness, we are being so inundated. The awakening of how much we haven't known, and the cost of that in a certain sense. It's like, it's a willingness to be in relationship, and then that's the feminine principle, is just to open up and like actually have relationship and allow there to be a reception of other, and also a real consideration and listening to what is that other, not assuming, not enslaving, not not forcing that other to be any conception of what you want it to be. You can invite, and this I actually do really propose, I recommend this. You can invite that that the relationship be one that's going to feel good to you. Absolutely. That's part of your self-responsibility and the honoring of your own center of consciousness as being a receptive channel for consciousness to be able to inform you, for the universe to be able to inform you. It's part of the act of self-respect and self-love that you allow that the impulses that are moving through you, that are motivating you, be heard by you and considered in a mature way. How do we bring maturity to what arises? And have that be really mature and not just some conception of what we think maturity is. Which, that's more the adolescent idea, is that we think we're adults, but we're not yet adults. So how do we become adults? What is this growing up? And I think the growing up has to do with allowing yourself to actually be in relationship with other, in a way that is, what I recommend is that it be respectful, and that there be some desire for it to be a relationship that is going to nourish both of you in some way. That it be something that does not deny either of you the ability to actually grow. Does not deny. This is so respectful. It's a beautiful thing to do. It's a loving thing to do, is to hold that your relationships actually be encouraging love, be encouraging learning, be encouraging growth in a way that strengthens positively, in a way that strengthens your own ability to maintain yourself in conjunction with the divine. We want our relationships to not be vampiric. How do we have relationships that aren't parasitic? How do we have relationships that are actually nourishing and lead to more health and grand vision and possibility that's going to support a greater and greater whole, for being able to open to more and more of the unknown in a coherent way that is beautiful and loving and allows for a continuation of the torus field into greater and greater levels of coherence and beauty. That's what we really want, Oh yeah. That's what's arising, is a real reconsideration of how to engage with others, especially when you start to consider that other may be way more than just the human race. To practice it here is really good. How do we actually have those relationships in a way that are going to be growthful for you, in a way that's nourishing, where you become a factor, where you become a harmonic for that kind of creation. This is really taking responsibility for a big shift in consciousness. How do you become a harmonic in creation that is actually encouraging more health and beauty? These are really big questions, and these are very, very big practices. How do we, a big piece of it is really being able to maintain your own center in a way where you are really responsible for yourself and your own balance and being in center. Because the more that you can actually maintain your own center, the less, I mean, it's actually your vertical that's maintaining your center, and it's you relaxing into it. And your vertical is connected to the entire universe. Your vertical is connected to the entire universe. Every cell of you is actually, every atom of you is connected to the entire universe. But you assemble all these levels of consciousness along your vertical that, that can feed your information torus field reception scepter to be more and more intelligent and sensitive and feeling how things resonate here, and then looking to see, does it work the same way out there? Maybe so, maybe not. Can I maintain what is actually working here and also be resilient and flexible? If it becomes too rigid, it's not going to work. So it needs to, especially with all of the forces coming at us these days, all the ways that we need to really shift our consciousness in order to move into a different, more beautiful reality. Yeah, the one we set up, the one that we set up, not working so well. The one that nature set up, really good. The question is, how do we have an actual relationship with that in a way that, is delightful? And it can be more. It's not like we have to go back to being cavemen, or, it's how do we have a respectful relationship where there's creation in a way that is beautiful and nourishing for nature herself as well. We're supposed to be able to do this. We're not divorced from nature. I mean, the problem is that we divorced ourselves from nature. That is the problem. We've come out of relationship. The problem is the cutting off of relationship. We're supposed to be sensitive to our nature, to the whole universe. We have the capacity to have moments of unbelievably grand perception. It's a lot to maintain consistently, which is why we did the subcontract, at least from here with this kind of biology. But we're expanding this, and this is getting rewired to be able to actually have relationship in new ways. That's very exciting. And nature, to come back into our nature, to come back into relationship with nature is very informing. And it's trying to move towards health. So, it's always wanting to have a more interesting expression of growth and beauty. And when a quote unquote, really in quotes, disease symptom or, unbalance arises, I'll call it a dis-ease, it's because something became unbalanced and your center wasn't able to be in relationship there, and has something's gotten pulled out of balance with your coherently, harmonically, beautifully moving system that's really quite it's moving in a lot of ways. It's moving it goes through lots and lots and lots of different harmonic configurations. The more harmonic they are, probably the healthier you are. It entirely has to do with being able to know and find center, to be able to relax and rely on the natural flow of beingness, energy flows that are coordinated around who you are and what you're doing here. to allow that to be truly, that it feels good, that it takes you towards more health. Yeah. So it's not that you're always on center, but you can always relax and find center. If you can't relax, you're probably using a whole lot of energy that's going to take you, going to be expended and not be able to feed you. Yeah, so that's relationship with oneself, and that's really, really, really important. I mean, it's primary to develop. But as far as like actually having a relationship with other, I mean, this is the rise of the feminine. This is the rise of expansion of consciousness, is having actual respectful, nourishing relationship with other that's going to lead towards more and greater and more beautiful creation. Creation isn't done. It's always becoming more. It has the potential to become unbelievably beautiful. I mean, it's already unbelievably beautiful, but it can do even more. It's like, and how to do that in a way that's not forcing, that's actually in relationship, in loving connection and marriage with, in loving relationship. I'll just leave it there. It's like, real communion, ecstatic communion. That's what I think is actually endgame for the universe, is the ecstatic communion of everything with everything in unity. An ecstatic communion with and in all. That's endgame. I mean, that's what that would be the final potential. But of course, that can probably happen, and then have that be, it's not a single thing. That ecstatic communion, it's not static. It's ecstatic. It's continually revealing itself. And because that means that unknown continues and continues always to be revealed, the necessity of us to be humble, that we don't yet know everything, and that we don't necessarily know how to be in right relationship with another. We don't know. We don't know who other is. We know we can feel harmonics that we carry, that the other person carries. We can definitely feel where we resonate. That's actually that's great. That's great. That gives something to anchor on, but don't ever limit it to that. To think that the other is actually who you think they are. It's an enslavement. It's a program. I mean, this is for us to take responsibility for, at that level of how enslavement happens. It's actually a really, really big deal. It's very particular into your own particular experience and your own reality, but that's your own reality is it's everyone's realities. It's every single seat of consciousness's realities that is coordinating to make this creation. You only have the power from where you are, and to take the power from others is just very disrespectful. It actually doesn't allow for the highest, most amazing, ecstatic possibility. The most amazing one is where everyone is actually responsible and is getting to have their most expansive, delicious, healthful, expression. Even if that is just sitting still and watching everything. That's maintaining the center point for other things, for the feminine to have something that to be reflected with. The masculine is the reflector, and the feminine is that which is reflected. The unknown is that which is reflected. So you could even say that it's masculines having relationship, feminines with other masculines. It's like maybe the feminine is just the dynamic between masculines. You see where this kind of the gender piece of it breaks down. Because in that sense, everything is masculine and it's relationship that is feminine. It's the dynamic of relationship that is feminine. And that's not a bad way to look at it, actually. And you need both. Otherwise, it all falls apart. You have to have both. You know, I mean, otherwise what would be holding it together?